Hello and welcome back to the Game Room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 5,631 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. What a great week last week was. I think those PS3 Blue Label games went over so well that we're doing another PS3 video this week, though I don't have any of them because PS3 is not one of my better collections. But I do have the Xbox 360 equivalents that I'm saying the PS3 version is the definitive version, or at least it is a different version. It's kind of one of those plays on the same game, different name. It's not quite a different game, but in this instance, almost every single one of these games came out on the 360 first, and then was changed for the PS3 release, though not for all of these. One of these is actually a correction from a video a couple of times ago. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's check it out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so the first game we're going to talk about today is one of the worst games I ever played on the Xbox 360. And who knows, maybe the PS3 version is better, but I'm talking about Alone in the Dark, and specifically Alone in the Dark Inferno. So Alone in the Dark Inferno is effectively the same game that was released for the 360, but they updated the controls. Now, I'm not one of these people, but there's a few people out there I hear that don't like tank controls. I know, shocking to me as well. So apparently, when Alone in the Dark was ported to the PS3, they completely changed how the controls work. So instead of it being tank controls, now it's dual stick controls. They allegedly changed some of the way the weapons work. I think they cleaned up some of the actual gameplay. And then the other thing, the big content they added was the last scenario, or scenario 6, they added some bonus content, something like that. I don't know. But it's enough to have the Inferno subset, and more or less it is supposedly an improved version of the 360 game, though if you look at reviews of it, it still is not all that much liked more. So it's still a bad game by all accounts, just a little bit less bad, I guess. And if you're looking at what this video is going to be about, then there you go. That's kind of what it is. So Alone in the Dark Inferno, the first game we're going to talk about. Still not good. At least I hated the one on the 360. But hey, you know, if you're going to pick one of them, then get Inferno, because at least that one has a chance. Though if it removed the tank controls, I like the tank controls, but anyways. Alright, now this one is a correction. I did an oddities on the 360 video a few weeks ago, and one of the games that I said that had a movie that came packaged with it was Stranglehold, the Collector's Edition. So apparently on the Xbox 360, Stranglehold, the Collector's Edition just came with a behind-the-scenes DVD. The PS3 version, that's the one that on the Collector's Edition has a copy of the movie Hard Boiled on the PS3 Blu-ray, which, as you know, Blu-rays have a lot more storage space than DVDs. And hence one of the reasons why that format kind of won. Not really. They're still both around. But if you're an enthusiast, then yes, obviously Blu-ray is the better format. I think that's what games are on now. But yes, I was mistaken. So if you want the definitive version of Stranglehold Collector's Edition, that's on the PS3. So sorry about that. I know you take everything I say for gospel with my my brief looks into Reddit and Google before I shoot these. But that one was one I was genuinely surprised on, because I legitimately thought that was the case since way back when I missed out on picking up the Stranglehold Collector's Edition for like $15 last year. And now I'm glad to know that even if I had gotten it, I would not have had that movie that I'd like to check out. I really like Stranglehold, so I imagine the movie's pretty good too. All right. Here's one that I really wanted to pick up because it is basically Pikmin, but more edgy Pikmin. And there's two of them on the 360, but I guess when they released it for the PS3, they added a subtitle. And generally, whenever that is the case, there's something different. And that applies to Overlord, and the one on the PS3 is Overlord Raising Hell. Now, this one's not a very big change from what I've seen, the biggest being the added online co-op, which is, if you remember, co-op was free on the PS3, unlike the Xbox 360 where you had to pay for Xbox Gold. However, Xbox Gold was much more popular because you had Halo and Gears of War and things like that that built it up before Call of Duty came out. Not as much over on the PS3. So adding online co-op was cool, but no one really had a PS3. I mean, people did, but it was more of a single-player console. So they added online co-op. They added 5 new, I think, alternate modes or dungeon-type things at the end of the game, new armor, things like that. Not really changing the gameplay, nothing like that. I think the biggest differences was the added content and then the online co-op, which is cool. I imagine that'd be fun. I have not played enough of Overlord. The brief amount I did play, I was not all that impressed with it. It's no Pikmin. Don't get me wrong. I love Pikmin. I'm one of those Pikmin enthusiasts. But Overlord, I want to give some more time to, and I suppose the definitive version of the first one is got to be the one on the PS3 because it has that added content. All right, this is one I've mentioned before. I actually don't have it for the very reason that having this collection kind of defeats the purpose of why I wanted it, and that is the Assassin's Creed Americas collection. I don't have it, so I'm just showing 3 and 4. But what the Americas collection has is it comes with Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4, but then it comes with Liberation. And Liberation was I think it's the PSP, that was it. It was a PSP exclusive version that they have since re-released and bundled with Assassin's Creed 3 on modern consoles. But back in the day, there was something called the Americas Collection where you could get it, and it came bundled with Liberation with one caveat. The Xbox 360 version came with a download code, which, as you all know, the store being down now is effectively vaporware, if the code was still working. With the PS3 version, and I knew this when I went to go look into that version, which I've only seen once. I saw it at my local game store, and it doesn't go for that much more. But the PS3 version has Liberation on the disc. Yes. So if you can find a copy of the Assassin's Creed Americas Collection, it is the only way to play Liberation on console when it was currently out. And you're like, yes, you can play it on console now, but the PS3 version is the only way where you can find it of the console when it came out of its day, even though originally it was a PSP exclusive, I believe. I think it was PSP. So that is cool. I know nothing of Liberation. I confuse Liberation and Rogue all the damn time. I think Liberation took place in Philadelphia or Boston. It was notable for having the first female protagonist in an Assassin's Creed game, which kind of got swept under the rug with Odyssey getting so much more popular. But anyways, yeah, that is one to definitely stake out for. That's where the PS3 wins, bar none on that. Having the game on the disc, the other one is just 3 and 4, which you can find dirt cheap. Liberation was really the only reason to get that collection, in my opinion. All right, this is one that I just recently found out about as I was trying to find these PS3 definitive games that were like what I'm saying here, and there's not many of them. But this is one that is a game that I need to give another shot on the Xbox 360. I literally had it in my 360 back when I started going to the Switch games. And that is Deadly Premonition, and we're talking about Deadly Premonition Director's Cut. So Deadly Premonition Director's Cut seems to be similar to the story behind Alone in the Dark. For the PS3, they changed the controls. I imagine that means they removed the tank controls, which makes me not want to play it, but you might. They also made it so the camera is a little bit better. I think the camera's locked behind you in the Xbox 360 version, versus this one you can kind of have it move around. It added extended cutscenes, so a little bit more context behind what's going on in the game. Doesn't necessarily change anything, but from what people say who've played it, it's kind of a Twin Peaks vibe, that kind of thing. So I'm sure it gives some context into clues or into scenarios that weren't there before. But then the other thing, which this was a topic I had suggested last week, which I am looking into, though I don't have many of these, and I don't have a dang Sony PS3 3D TV to do it on, but it adds stereoscopic 3D. So the director's cut of Deadly Premonition on the PS3 has 3D. The stereoscopic, which I believe is the one that does not require the colored lenses, the red and the blue. I think it's just the clear lenses that then show up, which there's a whole rabbit hole of 3D games on the PS3. I'm sure I'll jump into that eventually. Not quite there yet, but that is one to definitely to be aware of. All right, so we have one here that I also have no example of, which I should have grabbed an empty PS3 case to talk about, but this is one that there's kind of two examples, but only one got a physical release on the Xbox 360, and that is the Days of Thunder game. Now, Days of Thunder on the PS3 is called the Days of Thunder NASCAR edition because unlike the Xbox 360 version, the NASCAR version got a download or got the ability to use the NASCAR license. But the Days of Thunder, or maybe the other one was Days of Thunder Arcade. Maybe it was an arcade-only release. I think it got a physical release, but I could be wrong. But what they also got on the PS3 is, in addition to the NASCAR licensing, they got a bundle that came with the Days of Thunder movie. The Tom Cruise movie, which for those of you who are familiar with Paramount's Great America in the Greater Bay Area, there was a ride called Days of Thunder that used to be like sort of an alternative movie mode. They did a James Bond ride like this. It was pretty fun back in the day, but that's how I knew Days of Thunder. I never saw the movie, though I heard it's great. I was a little too young to watch it at the time. And just caveat here, there is actually another scenario like this on the PS3 where there is a Top Gun bundle, but I know for certain that that Top Gun game was only released on the Xbox 360 as an arcade title, not a physical release, versus on the PS3, it got a bundle with the movie Top Gun, which is pretty damn cool. Who would have thought that that would have, like, it's such random releases, a Days of Thunder release and a Top Gun release that were both like 2011, but hey, there you go. All right, back on target. So ones that I do have copies of. So this is one that I can't remember when I picked it up. It kind of plays like Zombie Ate My Neighbors, but a more modern version of it. And that is Monster Madness Battle for Suburbia. Well, they have Monster Madness Grave Danger. And Monster Madness Grave Danger, much like all of these ones, was a later release. It updated the epitaph of the name. And this one had updated controls as well. I'm not sure how the controls changed. Once again, this kind of behaves more like a top-down Zombie Ate My Neighbors or a dungeon crawler, that kind of thing. It introduced 4-player co-op, so that's pretty damn cool, as well as it introduced, or online co-op, 4-player online co-op, and it introduced new game modes, costumes, things like that. It allegedly made the difficulty a little, I think it made it either a little easier or a little harder. I can't remember. Once again, I'm going based on speculation on some of this stuff. I like having the Xbox 360 version, but if you have both systems and like to collect for both, this is one of those weird variance cases where, hey, it makes sense to have both because the Battle for Suburbia, not on PS3, Grave Danger, not on Xbox 360. So that's another one there for you. All right, the next one we're going to talk about here is actually a horrible game, though it's not without some charm, and that game is called Vampire Reign. Now, this came out on the PS3 under the name Vampire Reign Altered Species, though if I remember from seeing the cover, Altered Species is very prominent and Vampire Reign is not, so it's almost like they were trying to make people think this was a different game when it wasn't. And what it changed is they added a new co-op mode, they added new weapons, changed things around it. But the thing that made this game very difficult to comprehend is that it was very much a stealth game where you do not have the ability to fight. So if you're running up against enemies, generally run away, go and look another way, find a different route. That kind of thing. Like, combat is almost impossible in this game. I played it for a couple of hours when I covered it on the 360, and I got almost nowhere unless I was running and hiding. And a lot of people, when they're probably buying a game called Vampire Reign, and just the way the game presents itself, where you're this crack team of agents, I would expect to go through and start taking fools out win-back style, and not trying to be heavily stealth-based. Even when I played Metal Gear Solid, I never played it stealth-based. I was going around, knocking out guards, doing things like that, having the red, the exclamation marks go off. But yes, Altered Species. The co-op mode sounds cool. I'm sure that's worth having it for, but as far as games go, Not a great game. Definitely one you can probably hold off on if you're not sure if it's the right game for you. All right. And then another one here that I actually don't have a physical copy for, but it did get released physically on the PS3 is Under Defeat HD Deluxe Edition. And this is a helicopter game. It is a arcade title on the 360. I want to say it came out physically in PAL regions for the 360, but this is a weak entry because I just needed 10 games to talk about, and honestly, I could only think of 9. I thought maybe Dante's Inferno St. Lucia edition was one, but then it turns out that one also had a download code. But yeah, Under Defeat HQ, or Under Defeat HD Deluxe Edition, which just got a re-release of all things on Switch, I believe. But yeah, it's just interesting, a fun game, one to pick up, and hey, it's got a physical version on PS3, so I know I'm looking for it. So please go buy it, make me pay more for it. All right, then the last game we're going to talk about is an interesting one. I've known about this having 2 different versions. I want to say since Metal Jesus covered it way back when, but that game is Eternal Sonata. Now there is a PS3 version. It adds way more content. So it adds 2 new playable characters. It has a new, I want to say a new alternate ending. Let me see, I have it down here. Yeah, 2 new dungeons, 2 new playable characters, add cutscenes. But the big thing the PS3 edition does is it ramps up the difficulty, which I can see not always being a great thing to have happen. Now, I'm glad I have the Xbox 360 version, but finding out that the PS3 version has 2 additional characters does give me pause and make me wish I picked up a copy of that back, when I saw it at GameStop 7-8 years ago. Though at this point, with the crash kind of happening with the Xbox 360 and the PS3, I might go pick it up because hell, games that were a couple $100, over $100, they've actually come down, not completely to bargain basement levels, but came down pretty much. Like I was able to pick up a copy of Yakuza Dead Souls under 100 when that was definitely not the case a year ago. So it's cool. I'm enjoying. This is a great time still to collect these systems, and maybe will always be, just because as the kids now are getting older and older, unlike myself who was into collecting physical media, they're not. So we may not have as many new people coming in who want to collect the physical when, yes, the digital is so much more convenient in a lot of ways. But we'll see. We'll see what happens once Gabe Newell isn't at Steam anymore. I have a feeling that gravy train might come to a stop. But I hope not. I hope not. But anyways, that's what you get for this week, guys. As a reminder, I'm so happy to have you guys here every week. I release a video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.